All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this final installment of our series, Four Foundational Steps to Financial Freedom. Again, you are watching the Financial Freedom Academy channel, and we're super excited to wrap up this series. We hope that you found it helpful. And one of the things that we always like to point out right at the beginning is that we are not financial advisors. We are not your financial advisor, and therefore none of this in any of our videos on our channel should be construed as financial advice or be taken as financial advice. Please do your own research because there's a lot that goes into it. We're just going to be talking about what we're learning, what our journey is, and hopefully you can glean some insight and wisdom along the way. Okay, so again, this is the fourth installment of this series. And so the first video was determine your why and your goal. Then we looked at fixing the leak, so making sure that as you begin your journey, that you have taken care of and tidied up and organized your current reality. Then we talked about creating your system. So this is getting into that rhythm and the process of how do I begin to think and operate like someone who is moving in the direction of a financially free lifestyle. And what we're going to be talking about today is around this idea of taking action as well as staying motivated, because one of the biggest things that I've experienced for myself, but I also see it in a lot of other people as well, is it's one thing to sit around and think about and imagine and dream about being financially free. It always happens to me whenever I'd be on vacation. I'd be sitting at the beach listening to an audiobook and just be like, man, like I would love to have a much more free lifestyle where I get to do this more often, right? Now I do like working, and so I do think I would find myself getting bored if I had too much of it. So I have to be really careful with lifestyle design. But then I realized I would just come back and then get back to the daily grind, and then nothing really changes. Okay, so what we want to do is give you some pro tips in this video where we're talking about what do you need to keep in mind as you take action, and also what do you need to keep in mind in order to help you stay motivated. Okay. And so one of the quotes that we really like in this direction is from Tony Robbins, and it says, "The only impossible journey is the one that you never begin." And so we want to encourage you to, no matter how big or small the step is for you, to begin to move in the direction of financial freedom, actually begin to take action towards that. Okay. So here's some of the top tips that we've received, that we found, that we've researched, that we use as much as we can on a daily basis. And the first one is break it down. We don't want to try to do it all at once. Okay. Share one of you two speak to that and why that's important.
I think there's the overwhelm factor. I think whenever you're looking at something as big as this, it just feels so far off. And it's like climbing a mountain, and you're like, man, it's so far off. It's so high up. How do I get there? And so just a key thing is just to break it down, just to say, right, what are the steps? What are the phases? What do I need to do? Until you get to the stage of what do I need to do next? I think that is a critical question in getting anything done. Like, what's next? Let's just do that, because that's the next, the next foot. So if you're the sort of person that gets overwhelmed easily, get it committed down onto paper, into a system, whatever it is, get it broken down, and then just keep on bringing up the what's next. What's next? Just keep on going in that way.
Yeah, I love it. And, the next one is to be prepared for persistence. And remember that financial freedom does not happen overnight. Hunter, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is where mindset comes in so crucially. If you look at training for elite military units around the world, actually their heavy focus is on mindset, a mindset of persistence and resilience, right? This is where we have to watch our internal dialogue and setting expectations accurately, right? And it kind of speaks to that breaking it down. We'll break down what are your expectations for the first week, month, year. If you expect to be where you want to be in 10 years, in 10 months, that's probably not realistic, right? Mm-hmm. And so if we don't measure our expectations, and if we don't prepare our mind to be resilient and to be persistent, we're going to get disappointed. What happens when we get disappointed? We get frustrated. What happens when we get frustrated? Our will breaks down, our habits break down. All of these things that we've been investing in ourselves, they start to break down if we're not persistent and if we don't have that right mindset.
Yeah, that's huge. Rich, talk to us about data. Why is it important?
So I think it's really tempting for us at different times to think we're an expert in a number of different things. We might not say that out loud, but we start to make choices. So maybe we've got two different investment streams and we're like, hey, this one, I know that this one is better than that one. Now, the question is, well, does the data back that up? And so in this journey, we have to respect data. It's also when we're looking at our budget, we might say to ourselves, well, I don't feel like I spent too much this month. And it's like, what does the data say? Well, the data says you blew through your budget. Okay, well, respect that data. Even if you're like, well, I'm not sure it was. What does the data say? Where you've got options, where you're trying to make plans, where you're trying to evaluate different things. Let's say you've created some passive income source and you've got different, videos going on a YouTube channel. What is your data telling you about what's working and what's not working? Don't assume that you know. Don't just think that whatever you feel like is the better way is going to be the better way. Respect what the data is telling you. Make data-informed decisions, and you are going to find yourself moving towards financial freedom much quicker.
Yeah, that's really important. Keeping, you may have an opinion or a feeling, and that's fine. But the data probably isn't lying, so pay attention to it. It's huge. And the next one is adjust when you need to, but don't keep on changing the plan unnecessarily. So none of this is a specific, concrete. You write it out one time and it's going to be perfect. It is an adjustment over time. You take your best guess. You begin to work with those assumptions and that parameters. You're going to run into situations like, oh, you know what? I kind of had it wrong here on my budget, or I wasn't quite thinking correctly here, or I totally forgot about including this. That's fine. Just begin to make micro adjustments over time. Try to avoid massive changes unless you really are just massively off in certain, situations. But make micro adjustments over time and continue to dial it in. And you're always going to kind of be on that journey. So, and then this next one here is kind of one of the first mindset ones we'll get into that's really important. But if you want something that you've never had, you must be willing to do what you've never done. So, go ahead and assume you're going to get out of your comfort zone. Go ahead and assume that you're going to need to do something that you've probably never done before. Otherwise, you're probably going to stay where you're at. I know that's something that I have to remind myself of pretty much every week is like, hey, if I want to grow, I'm gonna have to go do something that I probably have never done before, or with a level of energy that I've never had to tap into before, that sort of thing. So keep that in mind. All right, let's keep going here. The next one is set dates for certain milestones. So Hunter, talk to us about just, the importance of setting dates, but also setting milestones along the way to the bigger journey.
Yeah, absolutely. This is key to expectations. We hinted at a little bit earlier is expectations are crucial in managing our energy, right? And in giving us the feeling of progress and momentum. Those things are crucial to us eventually reaching our goal. So when you take the big picture goal that you really want, start to break it down and break it down into the time frames that you think about. We think about in terms of years, in terms of months, in terms of maybe even a few weeks, but break it down into something that's achievable, because there's something that unlocks physiologically. This is a biological and physiological reality. When we achieve a goal, there are endorphins released. There are mindset, the circuitry in our brain that gets rewired. Right. And those are things that are really, really helpful. And we can capitalize on those things to keep us going in that journey. So breaking it down is crucial to being able to achieve our ultimate goal. And you're going to find it a lot more enjoyable along the way.
Absolutely. And it's also important to create a rhythm for remembering and reminding yourself about your why. This is one of those things that, we've talked throughout this entire series, and something that we think about a lot at Financial Freedom Academy is the whole idea behind your why. Why am I wanting to reach financial freedom? And so we would recommend printing out, a statement around your why. But what are your financial goals? What are your lifestyle goals? How will you know once you've reached it? Even doing a vision board is another exercise that we've seen people do and be successful with. Is print out pictures of what your life will be like when you reach financial freedom. And it may be travel goals or family goals, or whatever it is for you. Use that as a way of continuing to encourage you, especially when things get tough. Okay. And also remember that action creates momentum, and don't wait to get started. So if you've ever gone from a sedentary sort of non-fitness minded lifestyle to starting to work out, that the hardest part really is like the first one or two times you decide to go to the gym or you decide to start eating healthy. But once you kind of get into a rhythm, it becomes that momentum begins to help make it easier and easier and easier as you go. Okay, you still have to be intentional, you still have to work hard, but just that motion and that momentum is going to create more momentum, and that's going to become your friend. And then something that Hunter just mentioned is make it fun. We've talked about this before, but reward yourself when you hit a goal, a mini goal, and as you're moving toward your bigger goal. And remember that no one is a robot, and that rewarding yourself when you hit goals helps you feel as well as see the progress. Again, don't overdo it. Make sure that it's a proportionate reward for where you're at. Keep it reeled in, but make sure that you are rewarding yourself so that you can remember all the hard work that's gone into it, but also don't forget the hard work that's still left as you're continuing to move towards that financial freedom goal. And then 20 Mile March. Rich, talk us through this idea of the 20 Mile March.
So the 20 Mile March is probably a video in itself, so you can go away and Google this, but it comes from a book by Jim Collins where he is looking at business, but also the lens of Scott and Amundsen in their race to the pole. And what he notices is that Amundsen every single day does 20 miles, and Scott sometimes does more and sometimes does less. And the result of that is that Amundsen reaches the pole and gets back to his supply ship exactly on the dates that he said. And the lesson really is, hey, there are times when you're going to need to push yourself because, hey, getting this done this week, completing on that task this week is going to be really hard. And there's going to be other times when you're going to tempted to race ahead because you've got a bit of spare time. But having the discipline to just keep on putting in that same march every day, every week, every month will be what gets you to where you want to be. So try not to kind of let up on yourself too much and throttle back for too long. Don't overdo it on the easy weeks, but just keep on going in that rhythm so that you can get to where you want in the timeframes that are realistic.
Yeah, that's really great. That's huge. One step at a time, but keep it consistent. All right, and the next one is accountability is key. So, one thing that we talk about a lot is it's one thing to set a goal for yourself. It's one thing to try to stick to it. But the moment you introduce accountability into the equation, there's something that just happens that makes it that much more motivating and likely that you're going to actually do it. So find someone that you trust and share your why as well as your goals with them. And then also make sure that you're sharing updates with them in their progress and ask them to join you in this journey. You may even, inspire them to want to go on this journey with you. And also be careful who you invite into that, because there's a lot of people who are naysayers or who are pessimistic. Oh yeah, you're just on this little kick. And then, if someone's pessimistic, say no thank you. Find someone who's maybe already financially free or someone who's on that journey as well, and invite them into that space of helping hold you accountable. And then another one too is just leverage Google and YouTube. Others have faced a lot of the same challenges that you're facing. If you find a challenge that you're facing that no one else ever has faced before, make a video about it, because a lot of people are going to watch that video and that'll be good for you. But it's likely that if you are coming against a problem, there's probably 17 and a half different ways that people have found to help resolve and solve it. So leverage that as you go, become a student of solving the pain points and problems and challenges of reaching financial freedom, because there's a lot of good stuff out there. Don't get lost though in the research. Find some stuff and start trying it. You'll find your own way, but the most important thing is to take action. And then there's also another quote that we really like that is, if you have 1 hour to chop down a tree, start by spending the first 45 minutes sharpening the axe. And this is all around taking time to prepare yourself. So your goals, your why, your system, and then the rest is going to be a lot easier. So make sure that you're in the right mental space, the right head space, the right emotional space as you're beginning this journey. And this could be on a daily basis. It could be on a weekly basis. You may forget and you need to reset every month during your monthly budget meeting, but start with the things that are going to help you stay focused so that whenever it comes time to actually take action, you're taking the right action, and you also have energy as you're taking action in that direction. Last two here, remember that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Again, this idea of financial freedom is a huge idea. There's a lot that goes into it. It's a long journey. Once you reach financial freedom, you're probably going to have a new goal and definition of what financial freedom is, and you're going to start that journey again. So remember to enjoy the process, but you're never going to get there unless you take that first step. So doing one small thing or taking one small step is infinitely greater than doing nothing. Okay. And then the final thing we want to leave you with in this video, but also in this series, is we want to encourage you to take responsibility for your future. And remember that no one cares more about your future than you do. Okay. And also that no one is coming to save you. Okay. That can sound kind of harsh, but sometimes I think we fantasize about some opportunity just falling in our lap, or, getting lucky and winning the lottery, or, all of a sudden something great happens and I wasn't expecting it. And that's fine if it happens. But it's just assume it's definitely not going to happen. No one's coming for you. So it's going to be up to you. You have to take on responsibility. You have to take ownership. You've got to be the one that's deciding, you know what, enough is enough. I have a goal that I want to reach. Here's why I want to reach that goal. And I'm going to start taking action to move in that direction. So that's it from us for this series. Again, this is Financial Freedom Academy, and we're taking a look at the 4 foundational steps to reaching financial freedom. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next series.